Good morning and welcome to Ango in the Morning. Today is November 29th, 2021. I hope everybody had a wonderful holiday weekend, at least for my United States viewers. If you are not from the U.S. and you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, I hope you still had a great weekend in general. It's been a couple days since we've done Ango in the Morning, and that was largely due to the holiday. Obviously, I wanted everybody to just kind of spend time with their family. I want to do the same. And I'm excited, man. There's a new look to the show. There's new things coming to the show. We're just waiting for some deliveries to happen. But Ango in the Morning is a morning wrestling talk show. I'm very excited about it. I hope everything sounds good. Audio, video, hopefully everything looks good. I am just extremely excited to be back. As you guys can tell, there's a variety of topics. So today we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about AEW contracts expiring. On top of that, we're going to talk about a lack of challengers for Roman Reigns, Impact in AEW's relationship. There's a couple things on this one that's really, really important to talk about that not a lot of people actually talk about in general. Also, AEW's pay-per-view model. Should AEW change their pay-per-view model? And why is it hard for television deals, right? Why is it hard? Why can't Impact or MLW or NWA get a television deal similar to WWE, similar to AEW, a variety of things, you know. So we're going to talk about all of that today on Ango in the Morning. If you guys want to support the show, we have a couple different ways of doing so. So you could do a super chat. If you guys do a super chat, that's usually what we do at the end. Honestly, I'm going to be doing some questions at the end with the super chat. So if you leave a super chat, you get your questions answered. Woo! As you could tell, I already feel a little bit disconnected just because it's been a couple days. But yeah, anything related to a super chat, I'll read off at the end of the stream. If you guys want to support the channel, maybe in a way where you can't do it monetarily, the best way to do that is just sharing the stream, sharing my videos, commenting, liking, subscribing, all of that good stuff. It definitely helps out, and it's definitely appreciated. You know, the goal is to get to 100,000 subscribers, and I know it takes a long time to get there, but we are working very, very hard on making this YouTube channel a destination for people to get wrestling news and opinions and all that good stuff. Plus, we are doing a morning talk show. And then, of course, we do have the memberships for $4.99 a month. We are launching some new perks for that, okay? So, like wrestling pay-per-view parties and watch parties, things like that. So, I for right now, I've decided to go away from the idea of doing a Patreon model. I think the YouTube model works just fine. So, if you guys want to, help out, go ahead and check it out. Discord is also in the link description, below. Definitely check out the Discord because that's always a fun time. I like talking with other people that are huge into wrestling and all that good stuff. So yeah, let's see. Sorry guys, just got to moderate the chat a little bit. I am looking for moderators. If you guys want to be a moderator for Ango in the Morning, let me know. I'm going to offer you guys some cool perks for doing so. Just go ahead and reach out to me on Discord. Okay, so let's kick things off. We are going to talk about the AEW contracts expiring. This is the main topic. This is the thing I really, really want to talk about today. Largely due to the fact that there are quite a few contracts coming up. And AEW's contracts right now, as it stands, they have typically been 3-year contracts. Now, the Young Bucks have re-signed with AEW. And the Young Bucks have signed an extension until 2024. We don't know the details of that contract itself. And I do believe that a lot of people will re-sign with AEW. And if you guys pay attention to the show, if maybe this is not your first time watching, I said this the other day where I think it's going to be very interesting to see who actually leaves AEW to sign with WWE. But of course, with AEW, we don't really know the details of their contracts, and there is a little bit of anonymity. They're anonymous? I don't know. You know what I'm saying, right? But there is a little bit of information that we don't know, which is completely fine. Some people, I hear some people having this argument in regards to contracts and whether or not they should be disclosed. Personally, I think they should be disclosed. If you want a bigger contract, don't get jealous of the other person who's making more. Go work hard, right? But at the end of the day, when it comes to AEW and these contracts expiring, it got me thinking a little bit about what we need to expect and what we possibly should expect. You know, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. It's crazy to think that some of these contracts from the start are already starting to expire soon. Do I personally think Chris Jericho leaves AEW? Actually, I do. I do believe that Chris Jericho leaves AEW one day. I just don't think it's any time within the next 5 years. I think even when Chris Jericho is retired from in-ring wrestling, I don't believe that he leaves AEW. I believe that he'll be a commentator, a coach, a development person. Chris Jericho is here for the long haul of the pro wrestling industry in general. So no, I don't believe that Chris Jericho will actually leave AEW. Do I think Cody Rhodes will leave AEW? No, honestly, I don't think Cody Rhodes will leave AEW. If anything, I can see Cody Rhodes. You guys may have missed yesterday's video, but I talked about this. I said maybe Cody Rhodes will basically turn 40 years old, go on and retire, and then continue being an EVP, which I think is very likely. The real question is Cody Rhodes worth a lot of money as an EVP, or is Cody Rhodes worth a lot of money as a talent? Because that is a thing that a lot of people aren't talking about. And I find this to be really interesting because he has two different roles. And I don't think people want to leave AEW for WWE, but I do think people want, obviously they have to for themselves, maybe not the EVPs, maybe not Chris Jericho, because he's practically an EVP in my eyes. He was like the first major signing for the company. But I do believe at some point people are going to try to get a bidding war out of AEW. Loyalty only exists so much in this world. Trust me when I tell you guys this, I firmly believe that. So I don't know if this is like a situation where some people are going to, I don't know if they're going to try to leave AEW for WWE, but I do think they're going to try to milk some money out of AEW because of WWE. Now the thing is, when I look at these AEW contracts that are expiring, I notice something. This time with contracts, AEW is not being transparent about it. AEW has been pretty transparent about contract durations from the beginning of the company. If you don't believe me, just go look on Twitter. It's all there. AEW was announcing with press releases, oh, we've signed Sting for a 3-year contract. Oh, we signed this person, 3-year contract. We signed this person. We signed Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole. We signed all these people, right? Now, it's not necessarily the same case because AEW is not necessarily doing that right now. They're not really announcing it. The Young Bucks updated their Twitter bio. People are going to leave AEW. It's just not going to be these top guys. The 3-year contract thing is probably no longer a thing. I don't think Tony Khan is going to go back to long-term contracts unless you are a top star. But I think if you're a talent that's on like AEW Dark Elevation, maybe you're not on a per appearance deal. If your name's not Chris Jericho, if your name's not one of these guys, Hangman Page, Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson. If you're not one of these top stars, I don't think you get a long-term contract in AEW. And I think what we're really going to see is we're going to go into a change, a huge shift within AEW's contracts, where essentially what's going to end up happening is unless you are a top star, you're not really getting a downside guaranteed contract for long term. Which honestly, I think is a wonderful idea. I don't think long-term contracts make a lot of sense for AEW because you don't know what your long-term looks like. And obviously Tony Khan has been doing right business-wise for his people. Because here's the thing, you don't want Tony Khan to get into a situation. You don't want AEW to get into a situation like they did with Sonny Kiss and Joey Janela, people that they barely use, right? Peter Avalon. I understand that Peter Avalon's used on AEW Dark and whatnot, but Peter Avalon, Michael Nakazawa, like there were certain people who were signed to contracts in the beginning. They didn't have TV experience. So my whole thing is this. You're not going to sign people like that for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. That's not going to be a possibility anymore in AEW. I do think deep down inside, Tony Khan is a pretty smart guy. I really do think so. And if I have to be honest with this particular part, I think the worst thing that Tony Khan did when launching AEW was sign a whole bunch of talent that were not really well known. Because in the beginning, and understandably so, I get why it was like that. Let me make that clear. I understand why. Launching a company and stuff like that. But in my opinion, when I saw what AEW did in the beginning, they ended up signing a whole bunch of people. WWE released a whole bunch of people. Tony Khan doesn't want to look like the bad guy for releasing the people that are useless. See, that's the thing. These people have now become useless. They have become useless because there's not really much that AEW can do with them. And I'm not mad at the situation. But if I was a billionaire, a millionaire, trillionaire, zillionaire, if I was a rich guy and I'm basically paying money for contracts that really don't do anything for my product, it's not making me money, I'm not really getting much use out of it. If I'm that guy, I would just release them. But Tony Khan doesn't want to be seen as the guy doing budget cuts. It's not really a big deal. Because I think what we're about to see with a whole bunch of contracts expiring is Tony Khan is going to shift his thought process. And I think that's going to be really important. I want to talk a little bit about Roman Reigns challengers, because if you guys have been watching WWE, well, you know WWE sucks at creating new stars. This is why I'm actually a really big fan of AEW. And when I talk about AEW, I always say, yeah, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, all these people, it's great. But I prefer to watch Jungle Boy, MJF, Darby Allin, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter. I enjoy watching these people. I don't have an issue with the top stars, but I enjoy what I'm seeing right now, because when I see AEW put over their new stars on a week-to-week basis, I'm intrigued by that. I mean, if we're looking at television, AEW Dynamite, for example, has Bryan Danielson versus Alan Angels from the Dark Order next week on Wednesday. Alan Angels' first match on Dynamite, if I remember correctly, it was like a 20-something minute match with Kenny Omega that was absolutely insane. And at the time when it happened, I was like, what the hell is this shit? This guy should have jobbed out, and I got pissed. I got mad. But AEW is not WWE. You're not going to always have squash matches and all these crazy things, right? So now we got Bryan Danielson versus Alan Angels, and in my mind, I'm like, I don't even care if it's a 30-minute match, because pro wrestling in AEW is different from pro wrestling in WWE. So again, AEW gets me interested in the people that are lesser known. That's what I like about AEW. What is WWE doing right now? They got nothing planned for Roman Reigns. Nothing planned whatsoever. The lack of challengers for Roman Reigns. I want to talk about this on Ango In The Morning because I'm very curious to hear what my audience has to say. And you best believe I'll be reading the comments after this and responding to them. Because, truth be told, Roman Reigns is now in a situation where he has been built up as a legitimate star, and the only thing I think WWE actually has planned with this storyline and the bloodline is for Brock Lesnar to come back and win the championship from Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar is like the Celtics and the Lakers. If you watch the NBA, if you watch basketball, it's the Celtics and the Lakers, one of the biggest rivalries. The problem with that is nobody wants to watch the Celtics and the Lakers 100 times. They want to see an emerging team. So why in the hell are we in a situation with WWE where they can't establish a new star? Then there was news that Roman Reigns doesn't plan on being in WWE much longer. He might go Hollywood. He might pull the John Cena on The Rock. I personally just think it's weird, in my opinion, that WWE doesn't think, hey, we have some people we could bring up and have them compete against Roman Reigns and win. I'm talking about a young, emerging star. The Undertaker did an interview recently, and he was talking about how he thinks it was a huge mistake that Roman Reigns wasn't the one to end the streak. And I always agreed with that. I never thought Brock Lesnar should have ended the Undertaker's streak. Now, don't get me wrong, Roman Reigns is not on a WrestleMania streak, or he's not on a streak right now. He's just holding a very, very long championship reign. But you got people in NXT 2.0 who are set to arrive on the main roster, and truth be told, nobody gives a shit because they have a bad track record of letting new talent come into the scene. And I like NXT 2.0. I like Braun Breaker. But when Braun Breaker has a stupid-ass name, then goes onto the main roster, I would hope that WWE makes him a badass, but I just can't seem to understand if they will or not because they have a history of not actually doing that with NXT talent. So you got Roman Reigns, who's on this incredibly awesome storyline, the best storyline in WWE in years. You have a guy like Ricochet, who's either chasing the 24/7 championship belt or he's sitting backstage and catering. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Ricochet is the most impressive person. I'm not saying he has the ability to talk a crowd into pops and everything. I'm not saying that because I don't personally feel that way. But you're telling me Ricochet doesn't have the ability to put on a 5-star match with Roman Reigns? I think that's the problem. I think that's a huge problem because when Roman Reigns loses and it's going to be to a guy like Brock Lesnar, then who really gives a shit about a guy like Ricochet? But now if you're the WWE, you can say, hey, you know what? Ricochet doesn't have the ability to cut a promo like Roman Reigns. There's a little bit of a believability issue, right? Brock Lesnar's babyface. Roman Reigns is heel. We need to cement the idea that Paul Heyman has to pick sides. So it shouldn't lead with Brock Lesnar winning the title. What if Ricochet, Sami Zayn, what if some of these people were given an opportunity to fight against Roman Reigns? Brock Lesnar were to cost Roman Reigns the match, and one of these new emerging stars wins the championship. I'd much rather have that than Brock Lesnar coming in winning the world championship. I'd really much rather have that. And I love Brock Lesnar, and I think Brock Lesnar is sick, and I think him as a babyface is awesome. We just don't need to see the same thing every single year because that's what we've gotten accustomed to with WWE. But for some reason, I'm in an AEW cult because I enjoy watching AEW. I never understood this mindset. I read my comments. I respond to my comments. I know which one of you are trolling. I know which ones are not. I've discussed this with other content creators. There is nothing wrong with Brock Lesnar being a world champion. There is a huge problem with Brock Lesnar becoming a world champion, taking it off of a guy who is having the hottest reign in the world that could be given to somebody who is emerging. If you wonder why Baron Corbin isn't a world champion, it's because he's laughing his fucking ass off all day with Madcap Moss. That's the problem. John Morrison, he came out with an Instagram video talking about how happy he was. Great experience being back in WWE. He didn't really sound bitter. But if I was using little squirt guns, drip sticks, on Monday Night Raw, I don't know. Because the Johnny Mundo that I saw on Lucha Underground, the Johnny Impact that I saw on Impact Wrestling, could have been somebody with a real prominent role on WWE television. But for some reason, Vince McMahon gets off on the idea that these guys are comedy characters. If I am the WWE, I think right now the most important thing you could do is have Sami Zayn, Ricochet, somebody new, somebody different. I don't care who it is. Shinsuke Nakamura. I'm surprised Shinsuke has not left WWE. You guys talk about Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Kyle O'Reilly and Johnny Gargano. I am super surprised that Shinsuke Nakamura has not left the WWE. Seriously. Because Shinsuke is a champion who never defends his belt, making that championship belt meaningless. Because the WWE brand outweighs everything from championships to wrestling matches and to YouTube comments like mine. They don't really care about any of these things. All three of those things. Which is fine. They're in a whole different ballpark. But I look at the lack of Roman Reigns challengers, and that's why I have a hard time getting invested into any sort of push that people are expecting. Baron Corbin and Madcap Moss are teasing a breakup. I think Baron Corbin, not only does he have the End of Days, which is it is the most protected finisher in wrestling right now, and it has been in years. I don't think anybody's ever kicked out of his finisher. It's as protected as the Judas Effect from Chris Jericho. Baron Corbin is doing this stupid-ass gimmick, and they're teasing a breakup, which is great. Baron Corbin, I think Baron Corbin would be a great world champion. The reason why you don't think so is because WWE's positioned Baron Corbin as a loser. I can see past that, but the casual fan can't. And for sure, the hardcore audience can't. I was talking to Alex McCarthy on Twitter from TalkSport. We had a little interaction, and we were talking about Roman Reigns, and he said something about Jeff Hardy. And it was funny because I said, I thought he was talking about Jeff Hardy winning the world championship, and I immediately laughed because I'm like, what the hell is this guy thinking? Like, Jeff Hardy does not need to be the world champion right now. He does not. He could be a world champion. He can't take it from Roman Reigns, though. We got to create new stars, right? He clarified his stance. He's like, no, I'm not saying to become the world champion. I just think he should be a challenger, and it could be really cool. And then I hit him back with, now this makes sense because Jeff Hardy can compete against Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns can win. Jeff Hardy can now turn heel and become Willow. This loss could be the one thing that gets Jeff Hardy to turn heel and bring in his Willow character. Cool, right? It makes a lot of sense, but it's predictable. How many challengers is Roman Reigns going to have until he finally drops the belt? Or is this because Brock Lesnar is going to win the Royal Rumble and compete against Roman Reigns? Sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? It's very, very crazy stuff, guys. But I want to know who you guys think should be the sole survivor in the WWE. Who should be the one to take off the belt from Roman Reigns? Because that right there is the thing that intrigues me the most. That is the thing that intrigues me the most. If you guys don't mind, I'd greatly appreciate if you guys could slap that like button on this live stream. Ango in the Morning is coming to you live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern here on YouTube. It is immediately available on Spotify right after, Podbean, Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, all those good things. I would really appreciate you guys' support. And with that being said, let's talk about Impact and AEW. So as you guys know, AEW and Impact have had a working relationship. After Bound for Glory, I put out a video. I said they're no longer working together. Since then, we haven't seen the Good Brothers on AEW. They're still on Impact. I'm sure once their contracts are done, I'm sure they're going straight to AEW. I don't see them re-signing with Impact. But of course, now there's been this talk about the relationship and why it didn't work out. Well, first of all, I think before we even get to the nitty-gritty of why it didn't work out, the real question is, do you think it worked out? Do you think it served a purpose? Do you think the relationship between AEW and Impact Wrestling was a good relationship? I don't think so. I never liked it. Seeing Kenny Omega on Impact Wrestling was cool. It was great seeing him win the championship. That's fine. When I saw Christian win the championship, I didn't really care. I didn't really like how that played out. Then, of course, everybody starts talking. They say, hey, they go, Ango, why did they really stop their relationship? Now, I don't have any insider information here. But by taking a look at the two different products, I think there's a very good reason as to why they don't work with each other. There is very little continuity between the two products, and this is largely due to the fact that Impact Wrestling is a pre-taped product with multiple weeks taped in advance. AEW is live every week. And I always think, when I hear about this working relationship between two companies, if both products aren't live, it's very, very difficult to keep up with each other's product to make everything make sense. Deonna Purrazzo should have had a match against Britt Baker. For some reason, Impact Wrestling made Mickie James their Knockouts champion. An ass-backwards decision, by the way. But if you want to know why I don't think this relationship works out that well, it's not even because of the booking. It's because two shows, one is live, one is pre-taped. It's very, very difficult in this situation, and especially in this day and age with social media and everything like that. One product is behind the other product. Not to mention, every single time I talk about Impact Wrestling on this channel, whether it is Ango in the Morning or a video upload, I say Impact needs to improve their production. Lighting, production, cameras, everything. There's a lot about Impact that I really, really enjoy from a creative standpoint. Weekly television, the storytelling, it's really good shit. People are shocked to hear that sometimes I think Impact is better than AEW and WWE because I think Impact is the middle ground between both products. Every single thing on Impact Wrestling has a purpose, has some form of importance. WWE and AEW don't have that on a weekly basis. AEW's production, WWE's production, levels to this shit. Way better than Impact Wrestling. Which is fine. They got more money. I get it. But Impact Wrestling also owns, the parent company to Impact owns their own television deal. They own Access TV. And I don't know the financials of this stuff, but I personally think this relationship was a terrible relationship from the beginning. I really genuinely do believe that. And not only was it terrible from the beginning, but what really came out of it? What Impact Wrestling star became something because of it? The argument can't be Josh Alexander because he lost. Like, yeah, he beat Christian, but he lost. It doesn't matter. Moose took it. I'm just trying to have a general understanding of what this relationship did, because honestly, I don't know what this relationship did. Personally. But as you guys know, here on Ango in the Morning, I talk to you guys about wrestling stuff. And you guys bring me donations and super chats, and you guys do all of this great stuff for the channel, and I appreciate that. Since I've gone full time with Ango in the Morning and the Ango YouTube channel, things have been looking bright. So bright. Nothing's been better. The reason why I'm telling you this is because I look at viewership a lot. My YouTube channel's viewership month over month has been increasingly higher and higher and higher. The reason why that's important is because that is me producing content with a green screen out of my bedroom, but we got professional wrestling companies who can't achieve the same viewership. So tell me, who really won that relationship between both companies? I want to talk a little bit about the pay-per-view model between AEW and Bleacher Report, BR Live, and then of course we have the Fight TV for the international viewers. What's this television deal doing for AEW when they are partnered with Warner Media, but they're on a platform like BR Live, which by the way is not a very good platform. Warner Media has HBO Max, but for some reason AEW pay-per-views aren't on there live. So you can buy the pay-per-view on BR Live, but you have a ton of issues on BR Live. It's a very, very, very it's a very big issue or a very big concern for me when I see that pay-per-views cost $50. And it's not for me. It's not my issue. I'm concerned for other people. Because I see a lot of people want to watch the product. I see that they want to enjoy the product and they can't because it costs too much. And they're spoiled, right? Impact Wrestling, you could get their pay-per-views for about $20-$30. WWE's $5 a month on Peacock. The AEW pay-per-view model the pay-per-view model for AEW, in my opinion, is outdated. And I don't think it works. I actually think it hurts AEW. I don't mind paying the $50. I don't mind paying it personally. The reason why I don't mind paying it is obviously because I'm blessed I could be able to do this stuff for a living. But AEW's pay-per-view model doesn't work for the average person. Right? Would AEW see more than 150,000 pay-per-view buys? More than 200,000 pay-per-view buys? I hate to compare this because I don't know if it's a fair comparison. Personally, I don't think it is a fair comparison. But NWA Empower, the all-women's pay-per-view, had 3,500 pay-per-view buys. AEW All Out had over 200,000. Full Gear had over 150,000. It's obviously not a fair comparison based on the size of the audience. However, if AEW's pay-per-views were priced the same as NWA Empower, NWA Hard Times, if it was priced the same, would AEW have more pay-per-view buys? If there was a significant price cut on pay-per-views, would there be a difference? I'm asking this question because I largely believe that the price is the issue. Also, you can't forget that BR Live is probably it is the least favorite streaming platform for many people. BR Live is not that great. The technology behind it, always buffering, always having issues. There's a lot of stuff that people hate about BR Live. If you are listening to Ango in the Morning live, do you personally buy a $50 pay-per-view? That's the real question. It's funny because I just grazed the live chat. Somebody said that AEW audience is 18 to 49. Why would $50 be too much? Well, here is your answer. I'm going to explain this to you. The young people spend their money like idiots. They don't save their money. They don't think about their financial future. They don't look at the economy. They don't look at trends. They're more worried about flex culture. They're more worried about expensive shoes that they got from third party StockX. They're more worried about their watches, their fashion. That's great. The young audience loves that. The young audience spends significantly more money. This is why it is called the key demographic. For those who are wondering why key demographic matters, old people don't spend their money, young people do. So why would $50 be too expensive? Right now, it's not too expensive. But if you look at the economy, at least in the US, and we don't know what it's going to look like a year from now, but if you're looking at inflation, gas prices going up, eventually $50 for a pay-per-view is going to be too much money for these kids. Because they're not looking at their money. They're not looking at their pockets. They got a stimulus check and they would spend it all. So at the end of the day, when that happens, the real question is, should they change their pay-per-view model? We are not in the pay-per-view business. AEW is not in the pay-per-view business, guys. They are in the content business. It's all about TV streaming rights. Nothing else really matters. Live attendance doesn't really matter. If AEW has arenas filled with 500 people and it's sold out every single time, but their show does 1 million viewers, that's where the money's at. That's where the money's at. So when I ask, should AEW change its pay-per-view model, it's not because of the price. It's a mixture of things. It's because of the price. BR Live has issues. I bought pay-per-views before where I couldn't watch them live because they weren't working. Now, granted, I got my refunds and they took care of me. Customer service was great. But overall experience tells me that it's just an outdated pay-per-view model. I look at pay-per-views as a thing in the past. I really do. And I think AEW would actually get more viewers if they changed their pay-per-view model. 4 pay-per-views a year is exciting, so the $50 is not a big deal to me. Me personally. It's really not. When I think about it, it's not a lot. I often see comparisons too with the pay-per-view model to like boxing. Guys, just so you know, if you spend $80 on a pay-per-view for boxing, you're not there to watch all the prelims. You don't care about the co-main event. You care about the main event. You're spending $80 for one fight. Boxing's a dying sport. It wasn't until Jake Paul and Logan Paul came in and saved it just a little bit. But even after they lose, it's over. Boxing's dying. The only fights that really sell is Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. And even Anthony Joshua's losing. Boxing pay-per-view does not matter. But trust me, AEW is in the business of TV streaming rights. Nothing else matters. All those other things are just micros. They contribute. They're looked at, but they don't matter. If I'm AEW, I would rather get $20 million, $30, $40 million off of TV streaming rights than whatever comes in from selling 100,000 pay-per-views. I want to talk a little bit about why is it hard getting a TV deal. This one for me is a huge one. This is a huge topic for me. Because I watch Impact Wrestling, I watch MLW Fusion, I watch all of these other promotions, the NWA, I watch GCW, I watch all of these smaller promotions, and I wonder to myself, I'm like, why don't any of these promotions have a great streaming deal, TV deal? Impact Wrestling is on Access TV. MLW is on BN Sports, YouTube, all these other different ones. There's so many small micro TV deals, but none of them are on a major deal like AEW or WWE. What is it going to take? What is it going to take for WWE and AEW to not be the only ones with a major TV deal? What is it going to take? Do TV partners not care about wrestling? Because if anything, Warner Media and NBC and Fox, they're all pretty freaking happy. They're all pretty happy. They're all pretty freaking happy right now. So why is it that nobody wants to put Impact Wrestling on a major TV deal? That's what I want to know. Because if I'm MLW and I produce TV, first of all, my quality needs to be a lot better. Same with Impact. They're all in the same boat. Their production quality isn't there. But does anybody remember how AEW started? Does anybody actually remember? When AEW first started, Warner Media was helping produce AEW shows to help alleviate the costs. It was kind of like a trial in a way to see whether or not they want to have this long question, these long partnerships. I look at Impact Wrestling and I see a lot of people. This is the truth. This is the truth. If this is you, shame on you. Impact Wrestling sucks. They suck. Their creative sucks. They suck. They're garbage. I hear people say this. And then I proceed to ask you, I say, when's the last time you watched Impact Wrestling? I'm just curious. So I can understand where you're coming from, what you're talking about, which era. Oh, I haven't watched Impact since Hogan and Bischoff. I'm not sure how a product can suck when you're judging it from like 8 years ago. Now, if you told me, hey, Ango, if you said, hey, Ango, I watched Impact Wrestling and you know what? It was actually really good, but the production sucks. I would agree with you. You know what I mean? That's the problem. When you have AEW's dark product, AEW Dark Elevation, when I look at those products and I see that they look better than Impact and MLW, that's a problem. That is an absolute problem. But then I look at the creative of MLW and AEW, right? And I think, wow, both of these companies are really good creatively. I look at the creative of Impact Wrestling and I think, damn, their creative is really good, but their production is not good. AEW got lucky because Warner Media was willing to work with another billionaire that had a vision. Obviously, when they were talking television deals, things looked really good. It was fine. I said Impact Wrestling is my favorite wrestling fucking promotion. Between AEW, Impact, and WWE, I say Impact is my number one. But on my videos, I'm an AEW cult member. The problem is when you have production that looks like shit and the quality looks like shit, people perceive that your product is shit. That's the issue. That's the issue. So why is it hard getting a TV deal? Well, to be honest with you, I don't think these people are either looking for it or they're not doing a good job of pitching it. Impact Wrestling has a better women's division than AEW. I would say Impact Wrestling has a better women's division than WWE. To a certain extent. For sure, it's better than Raw. The problem is Impact doesn't have the big names. They don't have a Becky Lynch. They don't have a Sasha Banks. They don't have a Bayley. They don't have a Britt Baker, Thunder Rosa. But Impact Wrestling has talent and storylines that are actually good. A very good talent. I remember when Impact Wrestling, I think it was the Bully Ray, Brooke Hogan storyline. That shit was crazy. And I think, if I remember correctly, they were on Spike TV. Obviously, there was a huge falling out between Viacom and Impact. So I don't think Impact could ever go back there. I personally also don't believe... I don't think, personally, Impact Wrestling has a want for a new TV deal. Because obviously, Access is owned by Anthem, which owns Impact. So, for that reason specifically, I don't know if it's necessarily hard getting a TV deal, but I just know that these companies need it. We need a third promotion to have a major television deal. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a huge TV deal. It just has to be better than Access TV. It has to be accessible in more homes. Maybe like Fox Sports or Bally Sports, whatever it's called. Maybe they could get Impact Wrestling. I don't know. MLW treats its stuff more like a sport anyways. Get a good television deal, up the ante with the product in terms of the production and the camera quality and stuff like that, and mark my words, people are interested. But right now, you're like a super indie. That's what it is in my mind. That's how I view it. But we were talking about AEW contracts expiring, right? We talked a little bit about contracts expiring, and then we talked a little bit about AEW and WWE and free agency. There's been a lot of talk about released people and stuff like that. It's a really big thing for me to just let people know that in my mind, personally, there are a lot of free agents and a lot of contracts coming up. And there are a lot of companies out there that exist. But some of these companies are looked at too small. They're perceived as too small for some of these people because people already made it in the big leagues. And for that reason, if you're not getting big stars, big names, if you're not getting people that could draw an audience, it's going to be very difficult getting a TV deal. For as big as ROH was, ROH actually had a pretty shitty TV deal. Then you got Women's of Wrestling coming back, Tessa Blanchard as the front woman. I look at NWA. NWA's quality is okay. I don't think studio wrestling works. I don't think there's one TV deal that makes sense for them. I never understood this type of stuff. All right, guys. We are getting ready for the part of the show where we discuss super chats. I know we got one from Dwayne Jackson. I'll read that off in just a moment. The end of the show is always dedicated to super chats and those who are contributing to the channel. So if you guys want to leave a super chat, go ahead and do so now. It is very, very difficult to keep up with all the comments during the live chat while running a talk show. So the super chats obviously flagged my attention. As you guys know, on the channel itself, I definitely pay attention to. I pay attention to all of these things. %62% of people said yes, $50 is too much for an AEW pay-per-view. 38% said no. We're going to go ahead and end that poll. Wow, Dwayne Jackson hit 2 super chats. What a good man. If anybody else wants to bring a super chat, let me know. Let's take a look at these questions. So Dwayne Jackson's first comment for $9.99, he says, with Scotty 2 Hotty quitting WWE, WWE has completely destroyed people's love for professional wrestling. He was a trainer and producer, and it broke him for his love of the industry. I agree. I absolutely agree with that. I think Scotty 2 Hotty leaving and asking for his release was a major. It was a major point for WWE to show that even the people who have been the most loyal to them are not interested in being there. WWE is ruining the love of people's business. Because at the end of the day, those people started in WWE as a pro wrestler. It wasn't until WWE shifted to this PG, like, huge, like, I don't even know how to describe it anymore. But a lot of these guys came to WWE for the wrestling aspect. They did. They came for the wrestling aspect, not the sports entertainment shit. Scotty 2 Hotty leaving was an eye-opening. It woke people up, and I think it made people realize, like, anybody can leave. Anybody can leave. Dwayne Jackson's second super chat was, Sasha asking for time off will come back hurting her during the spring cleaning. Unfortunately, her and Bayley and Toni Storm will get released if not sooner. Ciampa and the old NXT guard will be gone. Dwayne, thank you again for your super chats, man. I definitely appreciate it. That's $30 total that you super chatted today, so I just want to say thank you. Look, guys, when it comes to Sasha Banks and Toni Storm and Bayley, there's nobody off limits. We saw Braun Strowman and we saw Bray Wyatt released. Nobody in my eyes are off limits. I personally don't think there's anybody off limits. So you know what? This comment maybe a year ago would have shocked me. But no, I do think at some point, you never know, WWE could release them, which is the unfortunate part, because if WWE were to release them, you're missing out on potential. For a fact, Toni Storm won't surprise me. Maybe Sasha and Bayley just a little bit, but Toni Storm wouldn't shock me whatsoever. It's not the first time that WWE has taken a talent. Guys, look at how they treated her during her main roster run so far. They pretty much buried her. They practically buried her, and then they put her in the Survivor Series match for no reason. Just really crazy, in my opinion. I don't like the way that they treat talent. Honestly, I think that's always been an issue for WWE. It's not something I've enjoyed, particularly with WWE's handling of talent when it comes to the overall signing and releasing people. I just think WWE has done a terrible job with it. I don't care. Look, I don't care that it's for budget reasons. I just think the way they handle it is just get rid of people. That's fine. You could fire people. WWE's not put on a different level than you who works a common job, just so you know. People get fired left and right on all these small jobs, and all these companies get freaking paid a shit ton of money. I'm not saying WWE can't fire people. It's just how they handle the people that they fire. Ridiculous. Travis Mann left a $1.99 super chat, and he also left a question. I just found it in the chat. He goes, love the show, man. Do you think Jeff Hardy will show up in AEW after contract? Honestly, this is a wonderful question. Travis, thank you for the super chat. I greatly appreciate you. Me personally, I don't think so. He's actually been very adamant about being happy in WWE. He did an interview recently talking about how he's never really pitched anything. He's not really upset about anything. He's actually been really, really cool. So I personally think it's been a really cool experience to see that firsthand. Plus, I think Matt and Jeff Hardy, if Jeff Hardy goes to AEW, the only way to do it is by having them tag team together. And again, thank you, Travis Mann, because I just saw that you left another super chat for 99 cents. So I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you so much for that. We got another super chat from Mike Cooper for $5. Thank you, Mike. He says, I think Braun Breaker should be called up to face Roman. Absolutely, I agree. I think Braun Breaker should be the one. Is it Braun Breaker or Braun? It's Braun Breaker, I think. Okay, Braun Breaker should be called up, but I also think Braun Breaker should not be called Braun Breaker. I think they should have named him Rex Steiner. I think with a name like Braun Breaker, him versus Roman is a money match. He should be the guy that goes over. My biggest fear with Braun Breaker is that WWE ends up doing the same shit that they did with Roman Reigns, and that's over-push him, overexpose him, to the point where people get sick and tired. And I'm scared about that, to be honest. I really do think, I think you're right on the money. I think he should be called up. I don't know if he will be, but I do think in that particular situation, Braun Breaker should be the next guy. I just have a very bad feeling with the way WWE handles call-ups. I really do. And it sucks because WWE, they know, everybody knows when WWE is trying, you can tell when WWE is trying. You can tell when WWE is trying. They make it noticeable. You can see when there's effort and when there's a lack of effort. And I'm just afraid that Braun Breaker is going to be in WWE at a time where the effort goes down the drain. Fun fact, Taya Valkyrie responded to a tweet yesterday from Fight TV, and she goes, what does she say? She goes, the question from Fight TV was, where do you see WWE in 5 years? And she quote retweets that and she goes, sold. If WWE gets sold, I don't know if Braun Breaker has a chance in WWE. I don't know. I look at these contract situations. You got Cody and Paige, and look, AEW's in a situation where there's people they're leaving. They're leaving, or they're staying. You don't know, because contracts are a very interesting thing in AEW compared to WWE, right? I tell you they might be leaving. I tell you they might be staying. There's an actual uncertainty with the talent that are in AEW compared to WWE. Because the way WWE treats contracts are very, not very contractual. So when I read Mike Cooper's Super Chat, he says, Braun Breaker should be called up to face Roman. I do think that should be the case. But do I trust WWE? They could give him the world championship and be like, hey, you know what? For budget cuts, I'm getting rid of you. That's going to be a real thing when WWE does that. Imagine what it's going to be like when WWE releases a champion. If you don't think it'll happen, I never thought they would get rid of people that were actually getting pushed. Hit Row. And, oh my God, man, the list goes on. It's crazy. Very, very crazy, my friends. Very crazy. Anyways, guys, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by episode 4 of Ango in the Morning. I'll be back tomorrow, Tuesday, November 30th, 2021. We will be live at 10 a.m. If you want to advertise your product, your YouTube channel, whatever it may be, go ahead and send an email at tony@destinationpw.com. Don't forget, there are many ways to support the show. We just got another super chat, Invader Zim 319 with a $5 super chat. Wow, thank you for that. I appreciate that. This always happens towards the end of the show. Towards the end of the show, right as we're about to get off air, we're getting super chats. I think you guys do this to mess with me. But Invader Zim 319 says, who on the main roster should take the belt off Roman? This is a great question. Actually, I don't know if you were listening in the beginning of the show, but I was basically saying it needs to be a new upcoming star or somebody who has yet to hold the belt. Sami Zayn, Ricochet. One of my personal opinions is that Brock Lesnar doesn't need to win the belt. He should cost Roman the belt instead. I think it would be a really good idea. Give it to somebody who can utilize it. But yeah, overall, very, very, very interesting to see what they do. I'm very curious to see what they do. So again, thank you, Invader Zim 319. And just because I do see the comments, I'm not stupid. I do read the chat. I am not the only YouTuber that has a talk show that asks you to super chat for your questions to be answered. I have topics where I have to go through the show to be, on topic. I can't just get lost and read the chat and answer everybody's questions because it takes away from what I'm trying to speak about. But as you guys know, I probably interact the most with comments on my videos. So thank you guys again for stopping by. If anybody has a last minute super chat, you got to get it in right away. Because literally at this point, we are about to get off air. You guys do this all the time. The super chats come in literally as I'm about to get off, which is really crazy. We have a major news story breaking, by the way, in just a little bit. So stay tuned to the channel because I'm telling you guys, we got some major news that I've been meaning to talk about. I've been really excited to talk about. And I'm the one who does it every single day, Monday through Friday, live 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And thank you guys all for stopping by. Just understand that I do see your comments. I appreciate you all. And the ones who left super chats, I even greatly appreciate you as well. So thank you guys so much. Hey, I hope to see you guys soon. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Take care. We are signing off from Ango in the Morning. Today is November 29th, 2021. Thank you guys for stopping by. I'll see you guys tomorrow live right here on YouTube.